were 3 miles west of Arivaca when we spotted someone in the ditch. This fella got up out of the ditch, stumbled his way to the truck, and he goes, "Agua, agua," and then he kind of collapses. He was in pretty bad shape. He was complaining about chest pains. Through our very broken Spanish, we were able to figure out that he had been left behind by his group, and he had been out there wandering around for maybe 2 or 3 days, but he said that he had been in the desert for like 7. Now, I got to tell you, because it's so unusual to find somebody in the ditch, and I thought to myself, what a way to welcome people who are our neighbor. And I just remember being in tears. I wondered if I could get over my anger. But then, I realized that being angry is not going to solve this problem. So the energy got, turned into simply saying, I really need to get involved in the work of No More Deaths. Deaths was started in 2004, and it came together as a result of there being deaths in the desert. And so actually when our government developed a policy of what they call prevention through deterrence back in the late 90s, and that meant that people couldn't cross in the urban centers anymore. They built walls, and people were starting to be forced into the remote parts of the desert. They discovered that people were dying out there. Our mission is to end death and suffering in the desert, and we're an all-volunteer organization that keeps getting out to the desert. It's going on trails in the desert, just carrying water, putting water out, food, and so on. Many people do not realize the amount of death. There have been over 7,000 people who have been recorded, remains found. Well, first of all, I love the desert. It's very beautiful, but it's not a place you want to be without water and food. And because people are migrating and crossing at night, traveling through those very difficult ups and downs, washes and mountains and what have you, there's so much risk you can't carry enough water, for instance. Your feet are going to get blistered. There's all kinds of problems that can happen as a result of being in those. I don't even want to say harsh areas of the desert, but without food and water, particularly, it can be extremely difficult. Right now, at night, it's very cold. Summertime, like in the Growler Valley, 115 degrees is not uncommon. And, to get water out to these folks is pretty difficult.
Every year, thousands of pounds of illegal drugs make their way from Mexico into the U.S. The southern border is nearly 2,000 miles long, and some say Border Patrol can't watch over all of it.
It's a big country out there.
There are a lot of miles to cover, and a lot can go wrong.
I was made for this.
I serve in the top law enforcement agency in the country.
We interact with Border Patrol. We go through the checkpoints. Are you an American citizen? Yes. Have a nice day. On the other hand, our abuse documentation and advocacy working group has been working on reports, and we put the second one out this past January on Border Patrol practices in the desert that put migrants at risk. And the very first report is about the disappeared, people crossing and then going missing as a direct result of this prevention through deterrence policy. The Border Patrol is not our enemy, but the policy that the Border Patrol is carrying out, which is basically a policy of the United States government, is one that continues to put huge numbers of very poor people at risk. And of course, what happened was that when people are desperate to provide for their families, they will do anything. And so they continue to come across in places that were extremely risky.
Now, I want to build the wall. We need the wall. The Border Patrol, ICE, they all want the wall. But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
Closest address to the plot is 3161 North Buffalo.
the political climate lends itself right now to this very harsh, mean-spirited treatment that we're seeing against many migrants. It coincides with, of course, the whole Black Lives Matters, the whole excessive police force, all of what's going on in our country right now. These are our brothers and sisters. We're all one. We're all connected, you know. And I understand that, you know, if you don't have papers, that's going to be some trouble. But our laws are so punitive. We make it so difficult for people to get a foothold. That's why, you know, when you've got a huge influx of people into your community, there needs to be preparation for it. There needs to be a welcoming of it. There needs to be a great deal of planning for how do we share this, how do we share the wealth, how do we spread, you know, what we have. But I've been really fortunate to, you know, just be part of a movement that just wants to make the world a better place.